Let's do this! But I said, if you gave me Mahomes, if you gave me Lamar Jackson with his great legs and Mahomes' great arm, or you gave me Baker Mayfield, who would I want? I would want Baker Mayfield, and the reason why is because Baker Mayfield...
I really think that now this is the worst case scenario for the San Francisco 49ers, is that they're going to have to cut ties with Jimmy Garoppolo if I were them. What? Oh my God! Wow, man!
In any event, Kyle Gibson is definitely my NL Cy Young Award winner. Rock on, Gibby.
And even no way! Oh my God! We are coming to you on the air with breaking news here tonight. Momentous breaking news in the world of college basketball. My name is Isaiah Leong. I hope all of you guys are doing outstanding here tonight. But we've got some momentous breaking news that we got to get into, some potential landscape shifting breaking news here tonight. A breaking news that I have a lot of things to say about. I know a lot of the fans that watch our show will have a lot of stuff to say about. So feel free to comment down in the comment box and fire away your comments, your questions, your concerns. I'll pull it up and read it live on the air here tonight. But what's up, everybody? Welcome into an impromptu episode of Sports Weekly. Didn't even plan to do this, but I figured, you know what? There's a lot of stuff going on in sports. NBA season's wrapping up. Kentucky's got a new basketball coach, and it's not the guy that we all thought it was going to be. Major League Baseball's off to a great start. The A's, the Oakland A's, just went into Arlington, Texas, and took 2 out of 3 from the defending champs. The Oakland A's are back, baby. Mason Miller is the truth. And then we got to talk about Jackson Holiday. The kid is up now. That's great to see. And then last but not least, we got to talk about the death of O.J. Simpson. But, man, it's going to be a jam-packed show. Make sure you guys grab your popcorn, your soda, whatever, and tune in to the program tonight. But let's get into it. Breaking news here on the IM6 Network.
Oh my God, Kentucky's AD really fumbled this. Oh my God. You are Kentucky basketball. You are like Alabama in football, or the Lakers in basketball, or the Celtics in the NBA, or the New England Patriots, or the 49ers. You are that massive of a brand where you can literally get anybody. And you freaking settle for Mark Pope. Mark Pope, the BYU coach who, I guarantee you when Pete Thamel tweeted that Kentucky was closing it on Mark Pope, people were like, who? You settle for him? You settle for Mark freaking Pope. Are you freaking kidding me? You could have waited for Billy Donovan. You could have gone Rick Pitino. You could have gone Frank Vogel if you really wanted to. But you settle for Mark Pope? Mark freaking Pope. Oh, oh, goodbye, Kentucky basketball. You guys are screwed.
Why? Just why, man? Why do these stupid athletic directors have to be so freaking stupid and do this absolute disgraceful, atrocious moves, man? Just, I don't understand it. I will never understand it, but we got to talk about it. You know, let's get into it. Breaking news from Pete Thamel. The breaking news, let me pull it up. But breaking news, as you can see on the screen, sources tell Pete Thamel, one of the more trusted insiders of college sports for ESPN, Kentucky to replace the legendary John Calipari. Kentucky is targeting BYU coach Mark Pope to be the school's next head coach. A deal is expected to come together in the near future. Mark Pope, the BYU coach, is finalizing a deal to be the next head coach at Kentucky. Played for Kentucky, won a championship for Kentucky under Rick Pitino. You know, let me just say this. This is embarrassing. It really is. And before I get into it, what I'm about to say, I don't want to cast any aspersions on Mark Pope. Mark Pope might turn out to be a hell of a coach. I don't know. But what I'm saying is not directed at Mark Pope. What I'm saying is directed at the University of Kentucky. This is embarrassing. This is, oh my God. This is a disgrace. This is a disgrace upon disgraces. You are the University of Kentucky. You are one of the biggest brands, the biggest brand in all of college basketball. You are the biggest, one of the biggest brands in all of college sports. You're one of the biggest brands in all of sports in general. You're like Alabama football or the Lakers or the Cowboys or the 49ers. You can get anybody at any time to come to your program. You can get anybody anytime. You've got a gazillion amount of resources, money, great facilities, the legacy, the history. And what do you do, Mitch Barnhart, you freaking idiot? You go out and get Mark Pope. Mark freaking Pope. When Pete Thamel tweeted that out, I was like, who? Who the hell is Mark Pope? Who on earth is Mark Pope? I don't know. I had to go on Twitter and look it up because I was like, who the hell is Mark freaking Pope? I don't know. Turns out he's the BYU head coach. And, you know, yes, I get it. Dan Hurley said no. Scott Drew prayed about it. He said no. You could have waited for Billy Donovan. You could have waited for Frank Vogel if you really wanted to. I mean, Frank Vogel would be a hell of a good fit. He played at Kentucky, for goodness sakes. He's a big name. He's got cachet. He's a great coach. You could have hired a Bruce Pearl, who's got a great resume. You could have gone out, and if you really wanted a younger coach like some of the reports are talking about, you could have gotten Florida's Todd Golden, who I'm telling you right now is the second, the next Billy Donovan or the next great college basketball coach. You could have brought in Rick Pitino, too, if you really wanted. But to hire a Mark Pope out of all coaches, dude. This guy's like the 9th or 10th on the list down. He's not the first choice. He ain't even the second choice or the third choice or the 5th choice. This dude's like the 9th or 10th choice. And I'm not saying Mark Pope's a bad coach. I'm just saying you're Kentucky. You can get better than this, man. Mark Pope has not won an NCAA tournament game in his career coaching at BYU. You fired or you ran out John Calipari because you were tired of him being one and done in the tournament, losing the first round despite having all that NBA talent. And you get a guy who has not even won a single NCAA tournament game in his entire career coaching at BYU. Heck, BYU, if I'm not mistaken, they got upset by Duquesne in the NCAA tournament. So what's the difference between a washed-up John Calipari and Mark Pope? There's really none. If you're going to upgrade from a washed-up John Calipari, go get a Rick Pitino. Go get a Bruce Pearl. Go get Frank Vogel from the Phoenix Suns, because I guarantee you Frank Vogel would have entertained the job because he's about to get fired in Phoenix. He would have had a longer leash. He would have more job security. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Plus, he played there. It's his alma mater. Like, it makes no sense. I don't understand this move. This is just just an embarrassing settle, a massive fumble by the University of Kentucky. I think Kentucky fans everywhere. I know that for certain that they are all protesting as we speak. They're not happy about this on Twitter. Mitch Barnhart, if this hire does not work out, like, I don't think it's going to work out, but if this hire does not work out, then not only is Pope going to be fired, but Barnhart, the athletic director, will be fired in a couple of seasons. This just reminds me of when Auburn hired Boise State football coach Brian Harsin, a guy who has a lot of success on the West Coast, never coached in the South, and then came over and was totally in over his head and got ran out in 2 years. That's the same thing. Mark Pope, he played at Kentucky. Great. Has never coached in the South. He had never even had a job that is like that pressure pack cooker that is Kentucky. We all know what a pressure cooker Kentucky is. It's totally different than any other job. You could have even gotten Mike Krzyzewski if you really wanted to. We could have gotten Bill Self if you really wanted to. But instead, you settle for Mark Pope. I mean, it's an embarrassing hire. I hope Mark Pope does a great job. I'm not saying, he's a bad coach. He's just not a good fit for the University of Kentucky. And, it's just an embarrassing hire for Kentucky. And before I go to my co-host, as I see we have James here on the program, let me just say one thing loud and clear. The days of Kentucky being a blue blood and a massive brand, not only in college basketball, but in all of college sports and sports in general, those days are dead. Kentucky does not draw anymore. Kentucky is like the Lakers when Kobe Bryant was at the end of his career. Just doesn't have the cachet, just doesn't have the draw anymore that you need in a big program, big brand like that. So it's just an embarrassing hire. I don't know why they went out and made this hire. It makes no sense whatsoever. The athletic director, you still got time to turn it around. I mean, you could still nix the deal last minute, which you should, and go get a guy like maybe a Brad Stevens from the Celtics. But to not even contact Billy Donovan, to not even contact him, to not even wait it out, like it's embarrassing at this point. And yeah, I could name like literally 6-7 coaches better than Mark Pope, which is just insane and asinine that you'd even consider them. But I want to get it to my guy, James Gonzalez here. James, it was great to see you tonight on Kicking It with Isaiah and Ace. Now we're going to come on here and actually kick it and have some fun and, do a sports show for once to talk some relevant sports. James, yeah, let's get into our breaking news. Mark Pope, random hire. Kentucky hires Mark Pope as their new head coach. You've been around you've been around the West Coast. You've watched some BYU basketball. You know a little bit about Mark Pope. What is your initial reaction to this news that Kentucky has hired Mark Pope?
Okay, so I just didn't see that coming. I thought Scott Drew would have been the replacement for Coach Cal, but I had one night of victory for that, and then, of course, in the morning I hear about this. Mark Pope, he got BYU to, some good heights, in the Mountain West. He had one season there in the Big 12 with the Cougars going there, so he has some good experience. But I just don't think he fits Kentucky well. I mean, that just shocked the hell out of me when I saw that. They must have just went with someone who they thought that would bring energy and a different look. And I think that's what the AD wanted at Kentucky. It may not be the right look, but it's just something they think they really need. He's an energy guy, so maybe he could spring that onto people, but it just doesn't fit Kentucky well. And I think that's the thought right now, to the point where you hope it works out, but you don't really know right now. The news is just so sudden, and the fact that UK um, tried to get Scott Drew, and Drew said, "Hey, I'm going to go back to Baylor. There's a higher power saying I need to stay." And then Dan Hurley, you knew he was not going to leave UConn. I don't know why people wanted that. He's building something organically, and that should never be touched. Maybe after like 10 years. But when you're winning, when you're going back to back, you don't want to leave that. You never want to leave unless it gets really bad. And then with Donovan, you mentioned all the NBA coaches. They just want to stay in the NBA. They don't want to go back to college unless they've had a massive failure in the NBA. So I never saw those NBA coaches being a decision in that. So I'm just shocked by the news of Pope going to Kentucky. It just doesn't seem like a right fit, but maybe they'll shock the hell out of everyone, Isaiah.
I mean, he did play at Kentucky. He was part of those '90s teams with Rick Pitino that won a national championship there. I guess that was one of the draw. You bring someone that's familiar with the program, that can try to get the program back. But I mean, we've seen it, James. I mean, these alumni that have got hired to coach their alma maters hasn't worked out recently. I mean, you look at Juwan Howard, fired by Michigan. Mike Woodson at Indiana has had one great year, and the rest has been like mid. Chris Mullen at St. John. I mean, that was a disaster. Jerry, I think they also had, if I'm not mistaken, Patrick Ewing at Georgetown. I mean, that like he made the tournament 1 year, stunned the world, and won the Big East. But other than that, he was a total disaster. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I just don't think it's the right fit. I think that Mark Pope, I mean, sadly, might be set up for failure here. And I mean, you could have gone Rick Pitino. I mean, why not give Rick Pitino a call, James? Like, that's what I don't get. Like, I know he's a lot of baggage. Bruce Pearl's got a lot of baggage as well. There's reports that they interviewed Shaka Smart, the head coach at Marquette. But I think Kentucky could have gone bigger and better with like a Patino. Like you could have gone like with some of the other secondary candidates. Like I know Dan Hurley was definitely like a pie in the sky type of deal. Scott Drew was more realistic. Billy Donovan, you should have waited for. But I mean, Patino would have definitely been a good hire. I think Bruce Pearl could have been a good hire. Um, Vogel for me, James, I know you vehemently disagreed with me on that one, but Vogel for me, like I would have called up just because, he would have had more job security at Kentucky. Because I think that if the Phoenix Suns go one and done in the playoffs, or if they miss the playoffs and lose in the play-in, then I think Vogel is going to be done. And also, some other names that you could have, maybe Brad Stevens if he was really wanting to come back. There's a name, James, that I will throw at you that I think they should have gotten, but you probably would have been like, no way, no how. And that is, what about this might be a crazy, crazy name. What about Kelvin Sampson, the head coach at Houston?
Uh, I just think there's too much baggage. I don't think that would have worked out. I guess it was good, getting this new coach Pope in there because you want somebody who was in the program before. So I'm kind of putting my head around it, trying to make it work. But I think Sampson is good where he is. I don't think he can ever coach like a big program again. He's got to stay where he is and continue to keep bringing up that Houston program.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but we do have some comments here. Seth Johnson Ford says, "Good evening, guys. Seth, how are you doing tonight? Hopefully, you are doing great." Also, Seth says, that he believes that Rick Pitino should have been brought back. I mean, James, Pitino did win a national championship there at Kentucky. But the thing is, like, do you want the baggage? Is the
Nope.
bigger concern. Like, because
No.
when you bring in Rick Pitino, you're not only bringing in a great coach, you're bringing in a person that's gonna, cause a lot of chaos and have a lot of baggage as well.
Yeah, there's no way they were gonna do that again. Just too much.
Yeah, definitely. Give us your thoughts on what do you guys think? Kentucky's bringing in Mark Pope back to the University of Kentucky to be their new head coach. Seth, with one more comment, he says, "How about Sean Miller?"
Nope. Same thing. Same thing.
James, I'll defer to you on this because you're a
Same
West
thing.
Coast guy. You know about Sean Miller and the trouble that he got into late in his Arizona tenure. You think Sean Miller would have been a good fit?
No, same thing. He's coming off the what do you call it? The sanctions at Arizona, and he got out of there before it happened. He was the main, guy in that thing. So I don't think you want someone. Again, you don't want anyone with baggage. It's as simple as that. And Mark Pope didn't have baggage.
Didn't Sean Miller get in trouble for with the FBI, right? Like the wiretapping.
Right. That's what happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
People
So
could look that up.
he's a great coach, but the thing is the baggage. Like the same with Pitino. It's like the same thing. You're bringing in a great coach, but is he going to get in trouble off the court? Because we know what Pitino is like. He's going to say he's like a ticking time bomb. He's going to say something. He's going to do something, which is going to cause a lot of controversy. I mean, Pitino at St. John in his first year, James, you follow a lot of college basketball. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Pitino rip his players live in the media and completely threw them under the bus? And he said something like walk-ons are better than the teams that we have right now.
Yeah, and somehow he made that declaration, and they were close to making the tournament somehow. But I think it's just coach getting older and they're getting sick of younger players coming in. And at Kentucky, that's going to be the case. That's just not a good fit.
No, definitely not. But yeah, Kentucky hires Mark Pope to be their new head coach. We both don't like the hire. Let us know in the comment section. Do you guys like, love, or dislike this hire? Let's move on to the NCAA tournament. I mean, it was a pretty good tournament, and with UConn winning it all once again. Let's go into the NBA. It's the last week of the season, James. Postseason basketball starts next week. So if you thought we were done with adrenaline-filled basketball, well, we've got another crazy adrenaline-filled basketball next week. Let's get into, before we get into the Lakers, because, I don't want to really get into much of them because, they are a disgrace, but the NBA playoffs are coming up next week. And I think it's a perfect way to transition into this topic, which is which NBA playoff storylines are you watching as we enter the final week of the regular season? James, I'll go first on this. For me, I think it's very, very simple. I think that as we are in the last week of the season, I think the storylines that I'm keeping track of is this. Number one, it's the Eastern Conference, right? Is Miami and Philadelphia. Are Miami and Philadelphia going to be the 7th and 8th seeds when the play-in games end, the regular season games end, and everything is all said and done? Because if that's the case, Boston and Milwaukee, especially Milwaukee without Giannis Antetokounmpo, they are going to be in deep hell because you don't want to face Miami in the first round. You do not want to face playoff Jimmy Butler in that first round. And Miami has beaten Boston a lot in the past. And they beat them last year. They're in Boston's head, and it just seems like Boston just cannot figure out Miami. Like Boston, every time they see Miami, it seems like they see a ghost. So if Miami ends up being the 8th seed, then Boston might be in trouble there. And then the Bucks is the same thing. Giannis is going to be out. If they play the Sixers, I really could see with their lack of defense, I really could see Embiid dominating the middle, Tyrese Maxey dominating. I could see the Sixers and Heat pulling upsets over the number 1 and 2 seeds in the Eastern Conference. So that's one of the storylines I'm definitely watching out is the Sixers and the Heat. Are they going to stay where they are? Because right now the Sixers or the Heat are 2 games back of the Pacers. with about, I think, 2 games to go. The Sixers are 1 game back of the 6th seed, so they can move. I mean, the Sixers can move all the way up to 5th and play the Cleveland Cavaliers and drop the Magic down. I think the Bucks and the Celtics would like that very much. So that's what I'm watching for. And then in the West, it's very simple. It is, James, your Clippers are going to be playing Dallas. That's going to be a matchup. It's a great matchup to see. I'm interested to see who gets home court advantage because the Clippers could easily. They lost 1 game to the Suns, but the Clippers right now could easily go down to 5 with about 2 games to go. They are 1 game ahead of the Mavericks. If the Mavericks win their final 2 games and the Clippers, I think, lose either one, then Dallas would own the 4th seed. So home court's very important there. And, I think another one is OKC. OKC, are they going to be number 2 or number 3? Because there's a difference. If you're playing 2, you could play the Warriors. You could play either Phoenix with Kevin Durant, or you could play the Lakers you could play the Suns with KD, or you could end up playing the New Orleans Pelicans if you're the 3 seed. And I think without Zion, sadly, I think that playing the Pelicans might be a little bit easier than playing the Suns. And remember, the Thunder played the Suns in the first round. James, Kevin Durant versus his former squad. So that would be very interesting to watch. And I think the last one I'm definitely watching is what happens to the Lakers, because right now LA is in deep, SHIT. I don't want to say the word, but they're in deep hell right now because they lost the last 2 games. After they could have been the 6th seed, they dropped all the way down to 10th, and now if the Warriors win their final 2 games, which is very likely, the Lakers will not only have to play the Warriors in that play-in game, but they're going to have to do so in Chase Center with it seemingly like the team has checked out of Darvin Ham. So those are the storylines that I'm watching in the final week. James, what are you watching for in the final week of the regular season?
Yeah, just to see what happens with the different spots or whatever. I'm hoping Cleveland they get over that hump. Last year they lost to the Knicks, but you have a Magic team that looks hungry, just like Oklahoma City. You have Knicks Pacers, and that's always fun if that happens. The Celtics, I believe in them this year to actually win. I mean, if they don't, you gotta figure out what you're gonna do with the coach there. In the West, man, I believe the Nuggets will be fine whoever they play. And then with the Timberwolves and the Thunder, it's going to be interesting to see if they could get over the hump and win a series. And yeah, that Clipper Maverick series, they're going to fight for the home court right now. But Kawhi and a lot of the starters won't be playing. So they might just give that to the Mavericks, honestly, and just kind of do what the Lakers did. If they play, they're just going to play their hardest and try to win wherever they are. It doesn't matter. That's all that the veteran team is trying to do, is not trying to remember or not try to think about now, but think about down the future when the game really matters. Looking at the play-in tournament, Suns and Kings, I just don't trust the Kings right now. They have injury issues. I think the Suns are able to outscore them. Warriors and Lakers, that would be fun. You got a lot of intriguing stories there with the elder players.
I hate to interrupt you, but Warriors-Lakers, that game, I think will be the biggest play-in tournament game ever because you have Steph and LeBron. Right. Loser misses the playoffs. So there's going to be a lot at stake in that game.
Right. That's why I mentioned that. It's just, I know it's a gimmick, but man, having those 2 teams in it is fun. And also, you look at the East with the 76ers and Heat potentially being in that. I mean, that's just amazing. When you think how Miami did last year, how they came from that. They had to win 2 games. Jimmy Butler had to will his team to get to not only out of the play-in, But then to get to the finals somehow, beating Boston right away, that was amazing. You just know playoff Jimmy's gonna wake up somehow. But man, Embiid is back. You'll wonder how healthy he is coming into this playing tournament or the playoffs. And then for the Bulls and the Hawks, man, I don't want to see that crap, man.
Hey,
I
the Bulls could
stop.
upset Miami though. Remember, they played them tough last year in that final play-in.
I'm gonna go. Damn, it's like I don't want either to go. You feel like Atlanta's more talented, but Kobe White has been really good this year for the Bulls. I would probably go Chicago in that somehow. I just think they're going to try with DeMar DeRozan to win and just get to the playoffs since it's his free agency year. They're just going to try to get in for him, and whatever happens, happens. You meet who would you meet right away? The Celtics? That wouldn't be fun.
They would play Boston. Yeah, if the
Yeah,
Bulls won like they won the 2 play-ins, they would play Boston.
yeah. Congratulations. Um,
And hey, good for Boston. They avoid Miami or
that's
Philly.
true. That's true. Yeah, you don't want to play both. You'd rather have an easy one right away. But know that everything after that is tougher. I mean, I'm despite what the New York Knicks are missing, Isaiah, they play you tough as hell. You got OG playing well, coming back when he does. You expect him to be back and fully healthy for the playoffs. But all the players there that are playing their hearts out is amazing. And the fact that they have the 3rd seed this year is great to see. And I'm rooting for them out of everyone. Like, I really want the Knicks to somehow make the finals. That would be amazing as hell to have a Clippers-Knicks series. That would be so much fun for me. But that would never happen, though. The league would never allow that. Especially with the Knicks missing a couple of guys. And, like, the Clippers are always, choking. So, I just love it when everything's in the air. I mean, Boston could choke.
Especially if they play Miami at first round. That's crazy.
Denver can, blame not having Bruce Brown and still have the number 1 seed and peter out. And all those young teams like Denver, Orlando, and Oklahoma City, and Minnesota, Minnesota, Denver, and Minnesota, Oklahoma City, and Orlando. I just want all of those teams to win a playoff series. I think that'd be so amazing.
Oh, I definitely agree. But like if you look at the playoffs, I mean, you potentially could have Nuggets, Warriors, or Nuggets, Lakers in the first round, a rematch of last year's Western Conference Finals. And then you could have like potentially Thunder, Suns. You could have, in the 3-6 would be, I believe, Pelicans versus the Wolves or something.
Thunder,
Wolves.
Thunder.
Thunder. Yeah, you could have Wolves versus Suns, Pelicans versus the Thunder, and then you could have potentially you could have Clippers Mavericks. So I mean the West playoff game I'm definitely looking forward to. I think that the Clippers and the Mavs like both have a lot at stake, because if the Clippers lose, then then the Clippers, there's a good chance that Ty Lue could be gone. They could break up. If Dallas loses, then what does the future hold for Luka? What does the future hold for Kyrie? What does the future hold for Jason Kidd? So there's a lot at stake there too, and and also Nuggets Lakers if that happens, but Lakers Warriors, because not only, James, and we've talked about this off the air, not only is the playoff spot going to be at stake, because whoever loses misses the playoffs, but also you got to think about whoever loses is going to be making major changes this offseason. Like if the Lakers lose, Darvin Ham, goodbye. He might not even make it back to LA after that game. Might be fired on the tarmac. Who knows? But LeBron's free agent. Like, there's going to be a lot of moves. Rob Pelinka, is he going to come back if the Lakers miss the playoffs? And then the same thing with the Warriors. If they lose and get bounced and doesn't make the playoffs, well, then what's going to happen with Klay Thompson? He's a free agent. Draymond Green, is he going to get traded? There's a lot of moving parts that could impact not just these teams, but the entire NBA with that matchup. So definitely going to be a very exciting week for sure. James, you have any like last thoughts?
No.
No? All right. Let's get into some of the couple of the games that were big games, labeled as big games. Let's get into the Lakers Warriors game on Tuesday. I was at Oracle Park. I wasn't watching this game. I wish I'd watched it, but I was at Oracle Park watching the Giants suck and lose to the freaking Washington Nationals. But the Los Angeles Lakers, James, got trounced by the Golden State Warriors. 134 to 120. 80 sat out, and now LA's playoffs hopes are now in serious jeopardy. Draymond Green went 5 for 5, looked like the second coming of Klay Thompson out there on the basketball court. James, what is your reaction to the Warriors crushing the Lakers in LA?
Like I said, I didn't see the game because I was watching Angels baseball. Yikes. And Padre baseball. But I think it's a game that the Lakers knew they didn't really want to play hard for, and they just want to wait for the play-in to play hard. That's basically what they were waiting for. So it didn't matter to the Lakers. But the Warriors, they wanted to come out and show that, hey, we want the home court for that, and we want to be looking good going into the play-in. That's all it was. These veteran teams like to take games off, even this close to the end, which is very alarming.
My thoughts are the opposite of yours, James. I think the Lakers should be ashamed of themselves. And I was very disappointed in the team because two reasons. Number one, the two games that you really needed, the Wolves and the Warriors game, right? Like, because the Lakers were a half game back of 6 as we entered Sunday. They needed to win the last 4 games, right? We want to get that 6th seed to play either the Wolves or the Thunder. Well, now you go to the worst case scenario because LeBron sat out because he had the flu, and then Anthony Davis sat out because his eye was freaking sore. I mean, rub some deep heat on that thing and get your ass on the court, dude. Like, what are you doing? You guys two are the top 2 highest paid players on the team. You're one of the highest paid players in the NBA, and you're gonna sit out 2 of the most important games of the season for what? Because I haven't sick with the flu or my eye is sore. Like, come on, man. Like, Kobe would never do that. Michael Jordan played through the flu. I mean, good Lord, man. Like, we needed those 2 games. And now the Lakers are in the worst case scenario where you have to go to Golden State and play them with Steph Curry, that crowd roaring at Chase Center on Tuesday, next week, Tuesday. And I mean, I just don't know. I just feel like the Lakers just mailed in the season. And James, it feels like they mailed in the season. LeBron mailed it in because he wants Darvin Ham gone. I mean, I don't know if you saw this video the other day where it seemed like Darvin Ham was drawing up a play, and then LeBron just sat there, looked at it, and then right when Darvin Ham was in the middle of drawing it up, he just walked out. Same with Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves took a look at it and then walked out. D'Angelo Russell, same thing. Like, Darvin Ham didn't even explain it. They just walked out. Like, it just showed me they quit on Darvin Ham. And, the faster the season's over, sadly, James, the better for the Lakers, just because Darvin Ham's going to be gone. Rob Pelinka might be gone because you have Bob Myers available, so you could go get him. I don't want this team going into the playoffs because we've checked out on the coach. Because why should we even go to the playoffs when we're going to go to the playoffs and get swept anyways?
Isaiah, I actually I would love that hire of Bob Myers. I know he enjoys doing the television, but damn, that would be amazing. Because you saw what he did with the Warriors. His dad played for the Lakers, I believe, back in the day, Dave Myers in the 70s. So there's a connect. You know how we were talking the other night about connections? There's one right there for you. And you know he'd get a good head coach. He'd probably get a good hire there. But let me say this on air, and it's something we talked about last night before I passed out. Now, I hope you record this or put this as a short. Do you know where I'm going?
I think I know, but go ahead.
I think the next Lakers head coach should be LeBron James. I really think so. Literally, you said what you said right now, right? Where everybody walked away from Darvin Ham's play call. Now, that sometimes happens late in the game, right? Where everybody knows what to do. We're already pissed that we're losing. We just want to get back in the locker room and go home. That wouldn't happen with LeBron. He'd be running things, right? He would be in everything. And I think that would make some history. I mentioned Bob Cousy, Bill Russell, and Lenny Wilkens were the three head coaches that I knew that were player coaches. Think about that. Bill Russell, Bob Cousy, Lenny Wilkens, they're all Hall of Famers. And LeBron James, of course, will be a Hall of Famer. Why the hell not? He wants to be GM. He wants to be the best player on the team, which he is. And he's still putting up great numbers. Why not? Why not LeBron be the head coach? I'm interested to see what everybody thinks about that.
You know, that is an interesting point, James, and I know like we kind of gone back and forth on that off the air where I've said like it's just because Jeannie Buss doesn't like handing the power to the superstars, and she reportedly despises Clutch because she says it's her organization, not Clutch Sports organization. So that's why I don't think they would do it. But I mean, I get where you're coming from because the next Laker head coach, right? If Darvin Ham were to be let go, he's not going to be any more than a puppet. Like that's why I really think that if the Lakers do fire Darvin Ham, I fully anticipate that Juwan Howard will be the Lakers' next coach.
God, stop that.
No, because he's friends with LeBron.
Stop.
Search up. I want the audience to search up Juwan Howard, LeBron James. What's the first picture you see? That's right. It's Juwan Howard carrying LeBron.
Move on with that. If that happens, I'll give you $100. There ain't no way that's gonna happen.
Are you really gonna be into making bets, man? Like with your,
but there's no way. Why would you get a failure as a college head coach? Why would you get a failure to come in and coach a professional basketball team? That is just terrible, terrible management. That's like hiring a nobody that has to be somebody. That just does not make sense.
The Lakers, I mean, I expect them to do stupid things. Like heck, I would not be surprised if we brought back Luke Walton or we. But then
you'll never win. You'll never win.
They like that Laker connection. That's why. But
okay, but you'll never win. You'll never be serious about it. Why not be serious about it and actually go for something historic and win? That's what the Lakers are all about. And you're just going further from that. You're just catering to just like one set of people. You're not looking at the bigger picture and the historic picture. Yes, it'll be all LeBron-centric, but isn't every team he's been on, isn't he the center of attention anyway?
Well, but the thing with the Lakers, though, it's Jeannie Buss-centric. It's not LeBron.
But look how much she's driven this team down, though. All these years. Now, her brother, remember, ran the organization and ran the team down.
Yeah.
What's his name? Jim Buss. Ran the team down the drain. She picked it back up just a little bit because LeBron decided to come to LA because of Hollywood and all that crap, right? Now look at that. You have a mogul in your house. You better respect the hell out of him and do whatever he says to win, because Jeannie has lost her touch. There's no other option I see. There's no other coach that's gonna matter.
Steve
LeBron's
Clifford.
just. You gotta be kidding me.
Well,
No,
he's got
he
Laker
won't
connections.
listen. He won't listen to anyone except himself. He won't listen to anybody else except himself or Phil Handy, right? You can have Phil Handy as the head coach, but guess what? LeBron is running things no matter what. It's simple as that.
No, I agree with you. I think that I think LeBron being a coach would actually be a great thing to watch, but it's Jeannie Buzz. She always wants those Laker connections. That's why she hired Rob Pelinka. Rob Pelinka has no business being the Laker GM. But you know why he's the Laker GM? Because he's Kobe's agent. That's why he got hired. And then remember they hired Magic Johnson as president of basketball operations, which was, I said that at the time. It was the most. I said that at that time that this would not work out because Magic Johnson was terrible. He never even came to the office a lot of the times. He made stupid trades. Let me tell you, the stupidest move that Magic Johnson made was trading Ivica Zubac, who was coming into the league at that time, for Mike freaking Muscala. I remember that trade. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like it I don't know, man.
Well, Isaiah, I loved that trade.
I know you liked it, yeah.
We got a big dude inside that got the jump hook and catch alley-oop slam dunks. Let me tell you about Magic, man. I love him. You know he's my favorite player of all time in any sport. But damn it, he did not know the young game that's going on. Where, hey, everybody's gonna copy the Warriors. Everybody's gonna shoot threes, screen pick and rolls, and defense doesn't matter. When Magic played, that was not a thing. And remember, he was a head coach, by the way, at the end of 93, 94 when they were a bad team. And literally he was telling guys, why aren't you playing like me? There was just I love Magic to death. You know that. But there was no way he was going to succeed at being anything like that. He was great as, a part owner because he doesn't have to run anything. But when it came down to changing styles and adapting to it, the Lakers never got that from Magic. But yeah, again, my thing, make LeBron the head coach and have 2 years of that, draft his son, just have him play defense, never offense. Wouldn't that be something? Both of them start together.
Yeah, it would be.
Can't you see that happening? He's LeBron's the player coach, and then the son is the starting point guard. You don't even have a starting point guard right now, according to the Lakers. You have Austin Reeves, and they finally started him, and they played better. But Darvin just didn't know what to do. Remember, I was the one who put the Laker lineup together, and you guys actually went out and did well. So maybe I should be running things.
Well, and guess what? The last 2 games, they've stopped doing that. I mean, they barely play Jackson Hayes now. Rui Hachimura plays, but they're playing more Taurean Prince and Cam Reddish. And sadly, I like Cam Reddish, but those guys are...
He's inconsistent. He's very inconsistent.
But, James, I do want to show that video that I was talking about. Here's the video that we mentioned about the players quitting on Darvin Ham.
These fools literally just ignore Ham. He's just sitting there, not even writing anything. Look at, they're sick. LeBron, this is full writing. Yeah. All right. Peace. Man, they don't give a fuck, bro. Hot pockets, come on, bro.
Apologize for the cursing language, but
so that was probably at the end of the game, and they're already down, and they're running a play that takes too long for LeBron's liking. And Austin Reeves, you could just tell. We saw a clip of him earlier in the season where he didn't like something Darvin Ham was saying, and he basically walked away. Like Darvin was telling Austin, like, "Hey, can you do this for me? And maybe this will happen." And Austin's like, "Yeah, no, I'm good." You could just tell, like you mentioned, they checked out, and we'll see we'll skip forward to the play-in tournament, and we'll see how they do despite him.
Well, that's why, like, I think it's honestly better if they don't make the playoffs because they are just like a dead man walking at this point. Like, yeah, if you make the playoffs, great, but the team just doesn't like the coach, and when you don't have that chemistry, that cohesiveness, just doesn't work. Like we've seen a lot of these dysfunctional teams. When has there been a dysfunctional team, James, that has gone into the playoffs and actually won it all? Like, there really hasn't been one. Like, this team reminds me. The last point I'll make is this team reminds me, James, of you remember Phil Jackson's last year, where there was so much dysfunction going on, and they ended up getting swept by the
Spurs.
Was it was it the Spurs?
Yeah, it was.
When,
No, the Mavericks. I'm sorry, the Mavericks.
That's what this team reminds me of. There's too much chaos. There's too much. There's too much like. Yeah, 2011. Yeah.
2012, something like that. Yeah.
Like,
I do remember that.
Yeah, there was like so much chaos that year. Like Phil Jackson, you didn't know if he was coming back. Kobe Bryant, Matt Barnes were arguing.
Bynum kept shooting threes and getting benched.
Yeah. Gasol looked like he checked out. Ramon Sessions was traded for Derek Fisher. Players hated that trade. I mean, I liked Ramon. Don't get me wrong, but
he was never going to be that savior.
No. Oh my God.
But we can talk Laker history forever.
We basically could because I mean I'm a Laker fan and this guy's going to be a Laker fan soon enough as is. Anyways, you.
I'll be a historian of NBA basketball and tell you about random things if you ask me.
You know, James, what would suck is if Jeannie sticks by her Laker way and they bring in Kurt Rambis, who's an advisor, to be the coach.
They would never do that. Oh, if they do that.
LeBron's
and
gone.
Remember, Linda Rambis is Jeannie's best friend.
She's an advisor.
She should never advise anyone about anything ever again. Remember, she's the one sitting next to LeBron and Jeannie when LeBron got in trouble when Jeannie was all over LeBron's shoulder. Remember that? It was like Women's History Month or whatever. And I forget, what's LeBron's wife's name? She probably didn't like that. But LeBron is not guilty in that situation. He was like, hey, I love you women. You women are great and an inspiration. But yeah, what's her name didn't like that. Anyway, just think outside of the box if you're the Lakers. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. Let's move on.
All right, let's go into our final NBA topic. And this is a crazy, you might think it's a crazy topic. But for me, it's kind of an interesting topic. And the topic, James, is Luka and the Dallas Mavericks have won 50 games this year. They are on an absolute roll right now. They're playing really good basketball. They got the Pistons and the Thunder coming up to end the year. Then they played your Clippers in the first round. James, the topic is, can Luka and the Dallas Mavericks make a run to the NBA Finals? And, I mean, they've got the shooting. They've got, a really good supporting cast. They're playing really good. Luka's playing absolutely out of his mind right now. But can this Dallas Mavericks team, in this loaded Western Conference, James, let me go to you first. In this loaded Western Conference, can this Dallas Mavericks team make a run to the NBA? Not win it. Can they make a run to the Finals?
They could always make a run. When you think about their path. First round would have to be the Clippers, right? And then the second round, if they get through that, they probably have to get through the it'd either be the Timberwolves or the Nuggets, I guess. Oh no, Timberwolves or the play-in team, or the Thunder and whomever the Thunder. Oh, it'd be Thunder and Suns. Would you imagine that? The second round trip would be the the Mavericks and Suns. Another bout with Booker versus Luka. That would be amazing. One thing that does intrigue me about the the Mavericks. Luka, you know what you're going to get from him. He doesn't disappear in games, right? He never does. I always worry about Kyrie Irving because sometimes he'll have something else on his mind and he'll just zone out. And then sometimes he does amazing things if he plays. And yeah, thank you. They would play the Nuggets in the first round. In the second round, excuse me. In the second round, it'd be whoever wins that play-in, I guess. But we'll see how all that goes. They can make a run, but I'm always worried about Kyrie Irving. Again, I just don't know if he'll disappear because he could be really great, but something happens to him where he disappears. They do have shooters, Cleaver, Hardaway Jr., and inside, believe it or not, they do have some great players like Lively, the rookie center. Powell is always someone that's really good. Not Dante, no. I mean, he's had a good resurgent year, but you're not going to depend on him for the in the playoffs, though. So I do like what they have. It's not really built to go all the way, but they could at least make a run. I could see that. Again, if the Clippers falter, and then if the if the Nuggets have Jamal Murray injured, I think that really hurts them. Because you do notice, Isaiah, whenever the Nuggets don't have Murray, they don't go anywhere. But just like last year, you saw when Murray's healthy, they won the whole damn thing. So I think it just depends on other teams and injuries. And then will we have a disappearance act of Kyrie Irving? I think all those factors go into the Mavericks. But individually with Luka, I don't think you have to worry about him. He's built for these moments. He just hasn't had them yet. He hasn't had a chance to get to them yet. But when you look at his career, all the times playing, overseas where he grew up, he's used to all these damn, crowd noise. He's used to the pressure. I just want to see. You saw him remember in the bubble, he had that game winner against the Clippers in 2020. I just want to see him. That you know what, and it would be It would be horrible against the Clippers, but if he had a moment like that again, I think he could propel them over the Clippers at least, and maybe be second round exit. Maybe be a second round exit. But then you would ask yourself, how are they ever going to get better? Like, it took so long for Dirk to get where he got. Remember, he lost in the first round in 2007, over the 8th-seeded Warriors. So he had some issues before he got to where he got for the finals. It's going to take a team with like real experience for the Mavericks to win. They might not have the right coach, but in this case, does the coach really matter if you keep going ISO with the two guys? And you just mentioned Kyrie Irving with the hamstring injury. That could linger into the playoffs. You just never know. So that's really telling for me, and it kind of hinders my feeling on them. But maybe their ceiling is the second round this year. It would be a real shock if they get to the Western Conference Finals.
James, I have to agree with you. I think they can make a real run because the thing is, it all hinges on if they beat the Clippers. Because you and I both know when you play an opponent several times in the last 3 to 5 years, and that opponent just constantly owns you. Ownage is a real thing, and getting over like that mental hurdle and the hump is a real thing. And so, like, I think for the Clippers, their biggest test of the playoffs is not going to be Denver or the Lakers or Warriors or any of those teams. It's going to be against the Clippers because the Clippers have owned them previously in the past, and they match up very well against the Dallas Mavericks. I think Luka and Kyrie, like, listen, I think we can all admit that we were wrong about the Luka and Kyrie duo working out or not, because they have put on a show. It just seems like they know how to play together. They played really well together, and they are just playing really good. And guys like Gafford, PJ Washington have been very nice acquisitions by Nico Harrison, their GM. He's very those two guys have really helped contribute and really play well around Luka and Kyrie. And then you look at the bigs like Dwight Powell, like you mentioned.
Derek Lively.
Exum has hit some nice shots recently for the Dallas Mavericks. Derek Lively is another guy that's brought energy off the bench. He kind of reminds me, James, of a younger Draymond Green, where he's just not the tallest, not the biggest, but he brings a lot of energy and he brings that like punch to you in games. And so I think
punch or kick.
What's that?
Punch or kick.
Punch. I know where you're going there, but yeah, I mean, he brings that tenacity on defense and energy. So he's a big part of their team. I really think they can, but it's all about, can they get past the Clippers? If they can, then I think they can, because Denver hasn't really looked like themselves, like that really ultra dominant team this season. The thing with the Nuggets is Jokic has been fantastic. Murray is fantastic. But this is how you beat the Nuggets. You beat them with 2 stars, and you beat them with guys around your stars playing extremely well. Like, Denver doesn't have that guy this year that you're just like, wow, they are going to be so good scoring the ball. Like, KCP has been off and on. Michael Porter Jr. is off and on. Aaron Gordon, I mean, there's some times where you just dare him to shoot the 3 or shoot the jumper, and he can't do anything. And then And then off the bench, I mean, Christian Brown was supposed to be that guy, but he's kind of been inconsistent too. And then now I think he's in the starting lineup. So if you put him with Jamal Murray, KCP, you got Luka and Kyrie. Like, those 2 guys are going to go off because Christian Brown's not really good at defense. So I think Dallas definitely matches up very well against Denver. And then if they do win that series, then they would probably play, they could play the Suns or whomever, but and the Suns haven't looked that good. So there's a lot of these teams in the West, they have flaws, and I think Dallas could definitely make a run. Are they the favorites? No, but they could definitely make a run, because I think Kyrie and Luka right now are playing out of their minds right now, and if they do that in the playoffs, they definitely could look like the 2011 Mavericks that made a massive run.
Man, all that sounds great in the regular season, but when it comes down to, 7-game series and all that, I'm just worried about, hey, who's going to want the last shot? Both will, Kyrie and Luka. And it comes down to, okay, who has been here the longest, or who has the hot hand. It's going to come down to that crap. I just know it will. And that's why I don't really trust them or put stock in them. And then those 3-point shooting, guys that they have on their team, like, either they're going to make them or miss them. Like Rachel, Nichols mentioned a long time ago, it's a make or miss league. And if you miss, you'll be one and done out of the playoffs, Isaiah.
Yeah, that definitely. And a lot of these guys, remember, they don't have a lot of experience in the playoffs. I mean, PJ Washington was in Charlotte forever. They never made the playoffs. Gafford as well. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how they do. But that Clippers and Mavericks series, get your popcorn ready, because that is going to be the rivalry is renewed. And can Luka finally get past the Clippers is definitely going to be a big challenge. But let's get into move away from the NBA, and let's get into our final sport that we'll talk about tonight, and that is Major League Baseball. Let's get into our team reports, James. And boy, James, you went to Anaheim to go to the Angel game, so you're boots on the ground there. But James, before you go, I gotta talk about my Oakland A's, because the Oakland A's look like they have arrived this season, James. Remember, a couple weeks back, I was talking about all the A's are the worst team in baseball history, and they're gonna go 3-40 to start the season. Well, the A's have woken up, and optimism is at an all-time high, my guy. James, remember how I made that take about the A's are going to make the playoffs to start are going to make the playoffs this season and shock the world?
You
Well, guess
quickly
what? That what
denied it.
happened. I mean, how about the A's? They went into Arlington and took 2 out of 3 from the defending champs, and then they went into Detroit and took 2 out of 3 from the Tigers, who had started so freaking hot. And this road trip that I was like, oh crap, the A's are gonna only win like one game and get absolutely buried. They're coming back home after winning on a winning road trip and after going 4-2. I mean, absolutely amazing. The pitching was great. Blackburn, Boyle, JP Sears today holding down the Rangers, this high potent offense for the Rangers to over 3 games to only, I believe they held him down to like 9 runs in this entire series. So great job by the pitching staff. The bullpen was great. James, I don't know how many times I'm going to mention him on every freaking show that we
Please
do.
don't.
Mason Miller is the truth.
Man.
Did you see what happened against the Rangers today?
No. Tell me.
Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, and Wyatt Langford, your boy. Mason
Why?
Miller dots 100-mile-an-hour fastballs to Marcus Semien and Corey Seager. Corey Seager's at bat, 101, swings and misses. 102 to the inside corner. And then 103 swings and misses. And Corey Seager was just absolutely baffled. He baffled the World Series MVP. I mean, this dude is looking like my proclamation. He's looking like the second coming of Mariano Rivera.
Stop.
Trevor Hoffman out here, James.
Stop.
I know the A's don't have a lot of studs to talk about, but this dude, you gotta keep him. Sign him to an extension right now. I don't care. Like, this dude is definitely one of the best closers in baseball, and he's got 2 saves right now, and he's absolutely rolling. So yeah, and then the offense. I mean, Geloff looked very good. Langoliers 3 home runs the other day. Nick Allen had a couple of hits. Seth Brown finally hit a home run today. So the hitters are getting going, but what troubles me, though, is that Brett Rooker got placed on the injured list, which sucked because he's one of our best power hitters. But, I mean, the A's are rolling, James. We're 5-8 right now. We go back to the Coliseum, play a 3-game series against the Nationals upcoming, which we should win maybe 2 out of 3, and then we play the Cardinals, 2 teams, Nationals and Cardinals, that don't really scare you. So maybe by next week, James, just maybe, the A's might have a winning record. So, it's been very surprising for the A's. And then for the Philadelphia Phillies, they won today. James, I'm going to throw a very interesting stat at you. Did you know the Philadelphia Phillies went 19 innings without an extra base hit?
I thought I heard that.
Yeah, they went 19 innings without an extra base hit. They had all singles. That's it. Which is crazy. But the offense finally woke up today. They had 3 home runs in this game. Stott, Marsh, and Bohm homered. They're finally getting it going, it looks like. The Phillies, they're finally a winning record, 7-6. Their main issue is not the offense, it's the bullpen. I mean, there's a couple games where the bullpen has blown it. They don't have a closer, which is very alarming. They're using a closer by committee, and that never works out. So the Phillies, they definitely need to find a closer moving forward. But I mean, overall, I'm kind of pleased with them. They're 5-1. They beat the Pirates today, 5-1. Pirates are, playing really good baseball. So yeah, we'll see how the Phillies do. They got Pirates for 3 more games after today. And then they play the Colorado Rockies. So Philly, they should start rolling because they've got some. And then they play the White Sox after that. So they've got a really easy slate after that. So those are my reports on the A's and the Phillies. The A's are back and they're rolling right now and stunning the world. And the Phillies look like they should be rolling soon. But James, you were boots on the ground in Anaheim. You were there in person for not just 1 game, but 3 games of this homestand. Talk to us about the Angels.
Oh, God. Okay, so I think the last week we had talked about, optimism and going 4-2 on the road. And that led me to go to all the home game, or to most of the home games of the season so far. The home opener was last Friday against Boston, and Angels played a hard-fought game. They lost 8-6, unfortunately, to Boston, who just outslugged them. The bullpen for the Angels has kind of been the just awful worst that you could think of. Saturday, they won 2-1. I was also at that game, boots on the ground. It was a great pitching matchup. Reed Detmers had 12 strikeouts. He was really good. But Garrett Whitlock was good as well. The Angels didn't really. It was no RBIs. I think it was a 2 RBI wild pitch, not RBI, but it was an error that led to the 2 runs on that Saturday. And one thing about that Friday game, I forgot to mention, Logan O'Hoppe had a grand slam. Rendon had his first hit. He had to outrun a little nubber to Rafael Devers. Sunday, yikes. They lost 12-2, did the Angels, to Boston. Let me tell you, Tyler O'Neill has been awesome for the Red Sox so far this season. He has 5 home runs, I think, or maybe a little more. They've been really good this year, at least offensively. So they lost 2 out of 3, did the Angels on the weekend. Then this week, they squared off against the Tampa Bay Rays, and it started off well. They won 7-1 on Monday, and it was a good performance by the offense. And Tyler Anderson becomes the first Angel pitcher to go 7 innings with no runs allowed in his first 2 starts of the season. And you would have thought, hey, Frank Tanana and Nolan Ryan would have done that in the 70s, but I think they gave up a lot of walks. So that, I guess that's why that did not happen. But the rest of the series had to happen, Isaiah, and Mike Trout also had a solo home run in that game. He had the first 5 home runs were, I think, all solo shots, until his 6th home run of the season was a 2-run shot in the first inning. But the worst of Patrick Sandoval came about. He did go 5 innings, but he was at like 82 pitches after 3 innings. And he didn't really last too long off of that. It's becoming kind of trivial why he's still with the team. I would have traded him a while back and just move him. Moniak has been under 200. He has not performed well, Isaiah. It's just not going to happen for him, I think. It's to a point, too, I think, Isaiah, where Joe Adele, who you mentioned in the chat, he's making some mistakes, but he's rarely getting the playing time. And maybe that's contributing to some of his faults. Because Wednesday, boots on the ground, day game. I was late for 2 innings, but I got there. And guess what? It was already 4-0 Tampa Bay. They would end up holding on 4-2. Adele did homer to center field. I think it was center field. Adele, I was there. But he had a mishap in the first inning, I think, where it looked like he was going to throw out someone, but he didn't really get to the ball quick enough. He's kind of casual with his defense. And then our catcher, Matt Thaiss, well, the reason they got 2 runs Tampa Bay did in the first inning, a ball got past him and he couldn't find it. And Arozarena came all the way from second to score. So not only did the runner at third got home, but Arozarena with his speed and his tremendous know-how went all the way to score. So they lost 2 out of 3 to Tampa Bay. It was kind of warm at the Big A, but it was comfortable enough to be there. It's not July and August. I guess that was the saving grace of that time. But there's just questions, I think, Isaiah, coming soon. Adele, Moniak, and Sandoval. I think you have to kind of weed out the guys who are never going to be anything there. When you look at Adele not having options, you can't trade him. You can't do anything, right? You can't release. You can't send him back down because that would be his last option. Or he's went through his last options, I should say. So there's nothing you could do. With Patrick Sandoval, it's been a project. He did well in the WBC last year, but then the regular season came and he really did bad. 2021 was kind of his ceiling, and he just never did well after that. I'm looking for Griffin Canning to do better. I don't know if we'll ever get the best of him ever again. And again, with Moniak, it's just not happening. Now, I could say, hey, you could bring up someone to, take over for Shanuel at first, right? Because he's also been struggling. And by the way, he had that 30-game hitting streak ended because of an error, a hit that was changed to an error in that series against Boston a whole 2 weeks ago. And all of a sudden they changed the official ruling of it. Total BS. And Wayne Randazzo, the Bally Sports TV announcer, called out the MLB on that. Where, hey, something positive in the league finally is happening. Other from, all the other things going on. The Otani gambling situation. The pitching injuries. What else? There's so much going on. The stadium situation in Oakland. All the bad things that are happening in MLB. And you take away a kid's hit streak, the third longest ever in MLB. It's absolutely ridiculous. But it wouldn't have happened if it was someone else. The league really hates the Angels, I think. Anyway, today was an off day, or yesterday was. The Angels go on a 10-game road trip. Yikes. They go 3 for Boston on the weekend, 4 in St. Petersburg to play the Tampa Bay Rays, and then 3 in Cincinnati. And Cincinnati loves to run. They're just an amazing ball club, I think, and they're on the rise. And then for the end of April, guess what? Baltimore comes in to Anaheim. I'll be boots on the ground on that Wednesday afternoon game because I lost that bet saying the Angels won't go 4-2 on their first road trip. Boom, they go 4-2. And then after a day off, Minnesota comes to town. I'll be at that 1:00 game on Sunday against Minnesota. And then to end the month, you have Philadelphia coming in for a 3-game series going into May. So it's a really, really tough time for the Angels. And by the way, they'll already be done by the end of that Baltimore series with 3 AL East teams already, home and away. They'll already be done with them. This schedule is just odd, but it means more divisional games later on in the season, which I love. Maybe you could play the role of spoil, right? We won't play the A's until, I believe, June, I think, which is just odd as hell because usually we always start with them. But yeah, at the end of June, 24, 25, 26 will be the first time the Angels play the A's. In the same month earlier, it's the first time they play Houston, and then they play Texas for the first time. No, they play Houston and Texas in May, and they play Houston and Seattle again. So it's just weird how the schedule is, but I'm getting used to it, and that's a report for the Angels. They're 6-7 now. I'm sorry, 6-6. Feels like 6-7. They could have won some games here, but it's coming down to their starting pitching. Other from Anderson and other from Detmers, the other rotation pieces are awful. Well, I shouldn't say, but Canning and Sandoval just walk too much, and when they try to get aggressive, they leave their pitches down the middle of the field. It's absolutely ridiculous. Or down the middle of the plate, I should say. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then the one guy who I loved, what was it? Chase Silseth, he has an elbow injury along with Zanija, the bullpen piece. So Hunter Strickland was called up with Carson Fulmer. And Hunter, he had a okay spring, but he also was victim of the long ball. I guess that's a thing in Arizona. But, man, I hope this is season. Ron Washington just weeds out the guys who don't want to be there or just won't be good and just move on. Estevez, I think, has 3-4 saves on the year, so that's good. But the schedule's only going to get tougher, and their record probably won't be as well. I just saw the message you sent me about the Los Angeles Laker players who wanted head coach Darvin Ham to be fired, and replaced with assistant Phil Handy. And I thought we would have seen that one. Remember that one Friday, Isaiah? We did that show, and you were talking about, man, they need to fire Darvin Ham now. And
they lost. They lost to I believe it was Brooklyn. Remember, they lost by 20 to Brooklyn.
I can't recall, but I know you were furious back then.
Yeah, because the Brooklyn Nets, literally a week after they beat the Lakers, they went on a 5-game losing streak and they fired Jacques Vaughn. So the fact that we got blown out by Brooklyn that game, like I just lost. And remember, that came on the heels of the Lakers going into Miami and they just completely no-showed. I think they lost by like 20-something points. And after the game, LeBron was like, how on earth do we not know how to beat the zone? So, yeah.
That's why he should be a head coach.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But James, yeah, sorry, the Angels. Oh man, I mean, listen. I think we both went to a baseball game this week, and let me tell you, we both went to a baseball game against our wills. James did not want to go to that Angel game. I did not want to go to that Giants game. But what's funny is like both teams that we are rooting for in those two games kind of lost the same way. Both pitchers, the starting pitcher, one of the starting pitchers for the game got hurt and before the game, and they had to go do another one. And, the team ended up, I think the Giants lost 5-3. James, didn't the Angels lose by 2 runs as well?
On that Wednesday, they did 4-2. And let me mention this. I do like going to games. I just don't want to give any of my money to the ownership. You know what I'm saying? It would be so much different if it was anybody else. Like anybody else. It could be, Mickey Mouse like it used to be. I don't care. I just want Artie gone so I could go to games, accept the fate that the team is in where they're kind of rebuilding but kind of not. But this dude won't spend on anybody, all those damn free agents, and guess what? The Giants got both of them. And then the rest of them went elsewhere. But man, I really enjoyed going again Friday, Saturday, and Wednesday. I was always with someone. I would never go alone. My main man dressed up Saturday as a clown. He was the Halo honk. Is entertaining all the people there at the game. And one thing I did notice, Isaiah, after that Friday and after that weekend series against Boston, that Tampa Bay series without Shohei there with the Angels, it had crowds of 20,000 Monday, 17,000 on Tuesday, and 16,600 on Wednesday, and they were all hiding in the shade. So that picture I took for you could just see it was all empty seats. I mean, when I got there in the second inning, I'm like, what the hell? I have a whole section to myself. I could walk around and no one would give a damn. It felt like I was in Oakland.
Yeah. I mean, now you know how I feel. It's like the lack of spending, no star players, no recognizable faces. I mean, James, I don't think it's really just like about our teams not spending. I think it's in baseball in general. Because I watched the Phillies game tonight, and in the third inning, there was literally like behind home plate, like empty seat, empty seat, empty seat. So, and then the Giants game I went to, Oracle Park is a very nice ballpark. It always like sells out, right? There was only like 25,000 people. at that game. Like it was like half full. So I thought like, okay, Giants game, Giants, the Giants have struggled, but they're lacking attendance too. So I feel like it's like kind of a league-wide epidemic right now in baseball as to attendance is just struggling around the game.
It is early in the season, though. Maybe when the weather heats up, especially in those cold eastern places and midwestern places, look for Chicago to have a nice crowd coming out as the weather gets hotter. I think that's going to be the case in Cincinnati. It's just going to happen. It eventually will happen for those teams that look to compete. For us, nah.
Not just us, Miami too.
Well, no one ever goes to those
Yeah.
games, even when they were trying to win, like we saw before.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And speaking of not winning, before we get into the great topic that I want to talk about with the Orioles, let's talk about the Astros, James. Lost again to the Royals. Hunter Brown gave up 10 runs, I think it was, in 4 innings of work. Just
Wow.
got lit up. Second straight start. Their pitching staff has been just absolutely awful this year and just decimated by injuries. The Astros fell to, I think, a league.
Kansas City.
No. What's that?
Kansas City this week.
Yeah, they lost to Kansas City 13-3. Hunter Brown gave up 9 runs in the first inning, James. 9
They
runs.
just leave them out there and not tax the bullpen. Whatever happens, happens.
Exactly. They play the Astros. They play the Rangers starting tonight in
Oh,
Arlington.
wow.
Or no, in Houston for a 3-game series. So that should be fun. But the Astros are 4-10, James. Verlander will be coming back soon. But Bregman's not hitting. A lot of the other guys are not hitting. Is it time to start panicking
Yes.
about the Houston Astros?
I think it is, just because of all the pitching injuries they have. And remember, they just lost Framil Valdez to, I think, a season-ending injury. Is that right, Isaiah? I cannot recall if it was or not.
They haven't. He's having an MRI. They haven't said anything yet. He's been placed on the injured list, but it's been a couple of days now since he was supposed to have an MRI. So maybe they're
That's
just trying
not
to hide
good.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
I am. Yeah, I would be very concerned if I was an Astro fan. Not only because you have to walk by a trash can all the damn time, but every time they lose, it feels like 2 losses. It's that expectation they've had forever with the Astros, where, hey, no matter what, we're going to win. We can lose free agents, we can lose whatever the hell we have, but guess what? It's different now. And everybody knew eventually they would kind of fall back to earth. No pun intended, being an Astro, not. But it's just time, I think, that, and everybody's looking for their demise, by the way. You just know that, Isaiah. Everybody wants to see them fail. And maybe this is the year. And to see them all the way down there in last place and not the Athletics, that's just weird as hell. But you would think they'll get their hitting together. Josh Hader's kind of been a disappointment for them. I mean, it's a chore to even get to him. But when he had to work, he hasn't done well. And, I thought Bregman would have a breakout year because it's a free agent money year. But he hasn't been good. Pena's kind of having a good year here and there. But you knew that sophomore slump kind of hurt him in a way. Everybody's kind of figured him out. I don't know what the hell's going to happen. When you're already down so many starting pitchers, you're kind of screwed for your season almost in a way. And I'm kind of worried about them. I really would be if it lingers into May and into June. If you don't see signs of recovery, then Isaiah, they might be done.
James, I think they are already done, to be honest. Because they just feel like a team that and I think I said this before the season started. They feel like a team that is on the downturn of things, where like they're getting older. When you're getting older, you're more prone to injuries, and then outside of Verlander, who was already hurt, and Valdez, I just didn't trust anybody after that in the rotation and the pitching staff. McCullers is always hurt. Garcia just underwent Tommy John. Hunter Brown has been a massive disappointment. Spencer Allegretti, who they called up the other day, he got lit up in his first start. They just don't have a lot of depth, and they just don't have a lot of good pitchers outside of Verlander. And pitching wins in baseball. That was my biggest concern coming in. Is I thought the offense was going to hit, but can they pitch? And that's the biggest question. And no, they can't now is the biggest is the answer, because Urquidy hasn't done anything. McCullers is hurt. There's so many injuries and just so many guys that was supposed to be prominent figures of their rotation and their bullpen. They just haven't done anything, and they've struggled. And so I think they're done. I think that, it's definitely you shouldn't call a team season over by April. But if you just look at the Astros, they're giving me the vibes of a team, James, that is this is their last, the last dance. This is their last dance, and then they're gonna blow it up. They're giving me the Golden State Warriors vibes, where they're just yeah, the end is near, it's done, probably after this season, and they just are dealing with a lot of injuries and a lot of inconsistencies and bad performances. And it just seems like a lot of their players are just washed. Bregman looks like he's washed. Other players look like they're washed. They're pitching, like we mentioned. They just haven't been able to pitch well. So I don't know. I mean, Texas should be running away with this division, but they're losing games to the A's for some reason. They're losing games that they shouldn't be. But this Astros team, James, I don't know about you, James. You can feel free to chime in, but doesn't this Astros team just feels a little different than years past? They don't have that same oh my God, they're unbeatable. When you walk into H-Town, it's been like this the last several years, and when you walk into Minute Maid Park, it was always oh crap, we're probably going to lose because of that crowd and the dominance of the Astros. It just doesn't feel like that. It feels like last year when Corey Seager, Game 7, hit that home run off Valdez. I felt like that ended the Astros dynasty, to be honest, and they just haven't been the same ever since.
Every team I think goes through that. The Warriors are, on the doorstep of that, it feels like. But man, the injuries just kill any team, any sport. It just really kills you. And then when you start losing pieces and pillars, that's when it really hits you. And you just hope you have a minor league? You hope you have minor league guys ready to go. They got lucky with Pena to replace Correa. But what about Bregman? And when Altuve decides to leave? And when you have to pay Alvarez? When Verlander eventually retires? Now you have so many holes that you have to fill in. Eventually everybody has to do that. And let me mention this. I had the Astros losing to the Dodgers in 5 games in the World Series, and it just doesn't look good for me right now with the Astros making it. So that's probably my fault. I should have said Yankees like I do every year.
Well, remember also Verlander's a free agent after this season, unless he pitches 133 innings, which
I don't think that's going to happen. Nope.
Yeah, because then if he pitches 133 plus innings, I think he has an option that vests after that. So I don't think he's going to reach that. And then you just look at the other guys that are. I mean, they have a new manager, Joe Espada. Is he the right guy? Who knows?
He's in the what do you call it? He was there, so they went just with the comfortable route. I think that's why they made that move. It was hard getting over Dusty Baker. It's like, man, how do you go from Dusty Baker to somebody else, and you just go with with just someone in house, basically? That's what I was trying to say.
Well, and then Bregman's a free agent after this year. So, like, you talk
Hmm.
about the pillars that they're losing, it just feels like a last dance because Correa's gone, Springer's gone. Imagine if you had re-signed those guys, what would have happened? And even Garrett Cole as well. But it just seems like they're kind of at that like last year where okay, this year, if let's say they have a Golden State Warriors year where they finish, and I think they're going to finish like third in the AL West at best, especially with their pitching concerns. If they continue to struggle, James, Bregman gone, Verlander probably will be gone at the end of the season. I think we're headed for a rebuild there in H Town.
That would be nice for everyone to see, other from the Astros fans and the group there in Houston. Literally everything has an expiration date, and what they did there was pretty special. Well, they got away with it one time, but they won it legitimately a second time. But it's just bound to happen. I think, but everybody's waiting for it.
Yeah, definitely. Let's get into our final topic of the night, our second to last topic, final topic of baseball before we get into our last topic of the night, and that is Jackson Holliday, the highly esteemed prospect of the Baltimore Orioles, the first overall pick of last year's draft, called up, making his debut at the age of 20 years of age. He
Mm.
went 0 for 4 sadly in his first game, but he did have an RBI ground out. And then his second game, I think he went 0 for 4, but he had a couple of runs scored. So I mean, he making some contributions at least. But Jackson Holliday called up the Orioles. They had a crazy game, and James, I'll let you give the
Hmm.
backstory of that game because I didn't really get to watch a lot of it. But Jackson Holliday called up, and the Orioles sweep Boston in a very astonishing way.
It just shows you the uncertainty of this season so far. I mean, everybody was wondering when the Orioles would wake up in a sense, and they did that this series. This series too was just covered by weather. I mean, it was raining. I think almost, or not Tuesday opening the home opener, but I think the next game in tonight or last night was raining as well. Um, yeah, Tuesday I didn't get to see Tuesday or Wednesday, but tonight I saw a crazy ball game, and especially late in the game, in which I think it was in the bottom of the ninth. Yeah, bottom of the ninth, and McGuire, the catcher, got thrown out after they didn't have another position player. So Connor Wong had to play catcher, and they had to do some shuffling in the outfield and infield because Devers had the night off. But uh, later in the game, or later in the next inning, they got 6 runs. Did Baltimore, and they won 9-4 in 10 innings. And Jackson Holliday, he didn't get a. I don't think he got a hit in this game as well as the last one. I have to look that up because there was a play that happened, but it was it was an error, so he didn't get a hit yet. It was close, but also he was kind of having trouble defensively. He had one play where he could have thrown home, but he hesitated and threw to first for the out. That was back in the first inning. And then later on, I think it was third or fourth inning, he had a ball dropped right in front of him as he was going out to right field. It looks like there wasn't communication with Santander and Mountcastle, the first baseman, I think was. Yeah, Mountcastle was out there as well. It just dropped in between them all. But Holiday was the closest to the ball and just seemed like, oh, he should have just reached out and maybe he would have had a chance at it. And also the pesky pole was right there as well. You know how quirky the dimensions are at Fenway. So he was not used to that whatsoever. And I think that's what's hurt him. I didn't see Tuesday's game, and I should have, but I know he made his debut, and I know he didn't get a hit. And it seems like he's pressing a little bit. He's just kind of nervous, as you know. Was he 20 years old? So you know he's gonna be that. But you could tell he was chasing the breaking ball down low, and he couldn't get any piece of it, honestly. So I think that's the book right now of how to pitch him. and he's just going to have to adjust and stay back on that. But man, I just can't wait to see him go home. Or not go home, but go to Baltimore and play there. I'm trying to see the schedule for the Orioles as they continue on, but I know they haven't been home in a while. But that's going to be an electric atmosphere when the Orioles eventually do. Oh, they host the Brewers on Apple TV today, and that's going to be an electric atmosphere as it's been all year long, by the way, since last year or a couple of years ago when they started this flight up. For Holiday, I was kind of shocked that he got called up this early, but he was just raking at AAA Norfolk. He was amazing down there, but I thought they would have kept him in the minors long enough where they wouldn't have to pay, you know, waste a year of service time. But he was doing that well, I guess. And one more note, I saw Tony Kemp. You remember him, of course, from the Oakland A's and other places. He actually got DFA'd to bring up Jackson Holiday. But Tony Kemp mentioned, hey, I remember seeing, Matt Holiday's son absolutely raking in batting practice one day and said, uh, I can't wait to see you come up and do well. Go get him, young man, in a tweet or in a X post. So that was very, very stand up by Tony Kemp. And then there was another thing, Buster Only. I saw this tweet from 2013, I think it was, Isaiah, and he was watching Jackson Holiday hit as a kid. He was watching batting practice, and he was just watching Holiday just rake again. And then somebody tweeted back, that same post or whatever, saying, "How do you know that? He's so young." And Buster Only's like, "I know he's going to be a major leaguer one day, and he's going to be amazing." So Buster knew all the way back in 2013, and there's a bunch of players that knew. I think it was probably with the A's when Holiday was there. I'm trying to guess where Tony Kemp was during that time, but everybody knew this kid's going to be special. But man, he's got some adapting to do, and hopefully he gets his first hit in front of the home fans this weekend.
I want to first say congratulations to Jackson Holiday. I mean, what an absolute crazy ascend from being drafted number 1 overall last year and then going from single A, double A, triple A. I mean, he almost made the club out of spring training. I mean, that's how crazy that was. But
Yep.
yeah, congratulations to him. Wish him nothing but the best in a very long career. I hope he does become a superstar because he definitely has the talent to do so. He, is a very good player. He looks very young to be honest. He doesn't even look like he's 20. He looks more like he's 12. But like the guy can hit, and I think that making his debut at Fenway Park. Wow. You just couldn't draw it up any better, James, because it's Fenway Park. I mean, the prestigious history of Fenway Park, you just couldn't draw that up any better. But he's going to help their lineup a lot, with Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman. I mean, the O's know how to develop young players and have them have a lot of success. So I think he's in the perfect situation. Defensively, definitely needs to get some work. I know that's what Mike Elias, their GM, said when they first sent him down, that he needs to work on his defense and also needs to work on hitting against lefties. But the guy has a really smooth lefty swing, just like his dad did. I think he's going to absolutely rake. And, I think right now the reason why he struggled was because, he's adapting to, major league pitching. I mean, it's tough. It's a different level. So I think he's going to be fine. But, Baltimore's got some exciting studs, man, with Rushman and Holiday and Gunnar Henderson. And, all they just need is the pitching. I mean, Kyle Bradish, if he can come back, that'd be great. Corbin Burns, if they can re-sign him. The Orioles are going to be loaded. And, I can't wait to see what they did, what they're going to do. And about that game that we were talking about, that crazy game, I don't think I've ever seen that, James. I've always wanted to see it where you have no more catchers left because guy gets thrown out, guy gets hurt and stuff like that. So you have to put a pitcher there as a catcher. I heard that he cost them some runs because the catcher wasn't used to it, but I think James, obviously was magical for Jackson Holiday. The Orioles scored 6 runs in the 10th inning, all because of the catcher situation. But I think that, the Orioles are going to be good. They're 8-4 right now, but I think this has more to do about Boston. I'm very worried about Boston, James. They're off to a really bad start. There's already talks that Alex Cora could be on the hot seat there. They've got a very young team. It just seems like a team in transition. And what do you do about Cora? Because he won a World Series for you in 2018, and winning a World Series brings a long, long leash there. But it's Boston. You can't go years and years and years without making the playoffs. And if they miss the playoffs, it's going to be like their 3rd year in a row missing the playoffs. So I don't know what you do. I mean, this team – I know our guy Ben Cruz is very frustrated. Tyler O'Neill has been balling for them, like you mentioned. Tristan Casas has been pretty solid. What? Let me ask you, James. I don't understand what's up with Masa Yoshida. I mean, that guy had a really good first year. I felt like he burst onto the scene. He hit 300 something, was almost an all-star. And then why do the Red Sox fans hate him? I don't understand. Every article that I read is so negative and about his ceiling. And I thought he was playing really good. But I guess they moved him to a full-time DH because they don't trust his defense. What's up with Masataka Yoshida? That guy was supposed to be so good, but I guess his stock is just so down now.
Yeah, I see his stats. He's really struggling at the plate. He's hitting 222, no home runs and 4 RBIs. He does have an on-base percentage of 567, but last year he only hit 15 home runs and 76 RBIs. I think they thought he was going to hit for more, and that didn't happen. And then this year he's just struggling out of the gate. And the thing to think about, he's 30 years old. He's coming over older, if that makes sense. Where he played before, he was younger. Now you're probably not going to get the best of him now. You're only going to get worse and worse of him.
Yeah.
You're just hoping some of that does well. I mean, he did really great in Japan, but it just seems like I'm looking at it, now I'm thinking to myself, if he continues to struggle with American baseball, he's not going to be around much longer. And I can't remember his contract. I think it was 5 years. I can't.
6 years. I think.
6-year deal. Yikes.
Yeah.
Maybe he's only going to get worse. But man.
Oh no, you're right. 5 years, 90 million. 5 years.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Because, a lot of those players get 5-year deals from Japan. And when I heard 6, I'm like, damn, that's too much. But I think age is getting to him. And then just struggling out of the gate and then not being a great defensive player. And I saw that he's slated to be in left field. And we all know how tough it is to play the monster.
Yep.
To play off baseballs off of the wall there, that could be one of the things too. So you add all that together, and that's probably why you have all that speculation and criticism toward Yoshida.
Because I know he was really solid last year, and he was really good out of the gate, and then all of a sudden at the end of the season, I started reading reports man, everybody's so down on him. People were even saying what's his future look like? And I was like, what happened? This guy was hitting 300. He was all world. And then all of a sudden he just drops this much. But yeah, I think that's my biggest takeaway is I think Alex Cora, that is going to be an interesting question the rest of the season, depending on how Boston does. And then, with Yoshida, like you mentioned, he's 30. He's just going to keep getting worse if he continues to struggle. We don't know how that's going to, like, how his future is going to end up playing out. Because remember, a lot of these pitchers always work out in the major leagues because it's easier to pitch than hit. But a lot of these hitters in Japanese baseball, a lot of people don't know this, but the pitching talent in Japan is not as great as it is in America. Yeah, you might have your Yamamotos and Otanis and Darvishes, but you're only facing them like once in a while. And then you face other guys that probably wouldn't even be in AAA baseball, let alone in the big leagues if they were here. So that's why a lot of their stats are inflated. And that's why, like, a lot of the times when, you have Korean guys and Japanese guys that are hitters coming over, I'm not sure how they are going to be. Like Jung Ho Lee, for example. I was wrong about him, but I thought when the Giants gave him that 6 years, $123 million deal, James, I thought they were crazy because I was like, what? You're giving that much money to an unproven player who's played in Korea with not a lot of great pitching? Like, it's crazy, but I mean, I guess that has worked out like right now.
And I want to mention about Alex Cora. I would give him another year, but I'm just worried, though. We saw Boston in the offseason not make a big splash. And then they lost Trevor Story to probably the whole season, 6 months.
Out for the year, yeah.
Yeah, his shoulder injury. And I felt bad for him. I was at that game. I was like, damn, he's finally having a productive start to a season. And then, boom, it's over just like that. You had all those factors into what he has to manage, and it's not really anything good. Johnson is a free agent as well after this season. They might trade him if it gets worse. So I don't want to put it all on Alex Cora. I really don't. The blame. I want to put that on the new management. Not being able to spend because of the ownership, putting money to their soccer team they own, putting more money toward that. I think it's Manchester United, but they're putting more money to that than they are the Red Sox, and it's hurting Boston. And Cora might be that scapegoat, unfortunately, just because it's like, hey, you ran your time here. It's just over. But really, it's not his fault. And you just hope he gets another job because he's a fiery manager still. He is one of those managers that will yell from the dugout at an umpire about the strike zone. He's not afraid to mix it up. He's a really good manager, despite what he did in Houston. But I think we're going to overlook that when we talk about him and his career. I hope he gets another job. But I hope he ultimately stays in Boston when things get better. But we don't know when the hell that's going to be.
Exactly. I mean, can you believe it, James? The Boston Red Sox, one of the most legacy franchises, brands in all of sports. They've gone cheap. I mean, I've never, ever. It's like the same thing with the Yankees. When George Steinbrenner passed away, Hal Steinbrenner doesn't really spend as much as his dad used to. So it's crazy to think about that these franchises, these big money, big brand franchises, have just gone cheap. And I mean, the Red Sox look like the A's and they look like the Angels. Like, not as bad, but they don't really spend. And that's why, Boston fans are used to okay, they're always spending. And then now all of a sudden they're not spending. And I feel like it started when Theo Epstein took over because remember, they wanted that Billy Bean Moneyball thing, right? So they tried to hire Billy Bean. He declined. So that's why they hired Theo Epstein. And then it was all about Moneyball, analytics. And now look at it. They're not, they're just taking all the money for themselves and not spending any. Yeah, go ahead, James.
No, I'm just wondering the direction of the team and the future of it. I know Ben would love to come in here and just rant, and try to figure out what the hell is the team doing. They swore they were going to get all those players. Montgomery was right in their laps in Boston, and they went to spring training and didn't take him with them. I'm so confused at what they're doing. Same thing with the Angels.
By the way, speaking of Montgomery, he fired Scott Boras today. So,
Wow.
yeah, that broke on ESPN like a couple hours ago. Scott Boras no longer the agent for Jordan Montgomery. So maybe we might see a ripple effect with Montgomery with this news. Blake Snell, who knows with him? Matt Chapman, we don't know, but. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, Boris no longer the agent for Jordan Montgomery because I think Jordan Montgomery thought he was going to get a massive deal this offseason. Didn't happen. Only a 1 year, I think $25 million deal. So yikes, James. Yikes. But let's get into our final topic for the night before we wrap this show up. And that is we got to talk about the news that broke before dawn broke yesterday morning. And that is OJ Simpson has passed away at the age of 76 due to cancer. And James, obviously condolences go out to his family. You never want to see a family lose someone, but and also cancer. I mean, it sucks. Like anybody that has cancer right now, we're praying for you guys. Cancer is just an awful disease, and it's just it takes away a lot of people from families, and just it's really, really, really painful. So anybody that has cancer, we hope for the best for you guys and praying for you. But it's very complicated, James, because on one hand we had what happened with the trial, right, with him and him allegedly killing his wife, but he was found not guilty, and then he goes to jail for other stuff like the whole robbery with his items, and but then on the field, I mean, he was one of the best running backs to ever play the game. So kind of a complicated legacy. I know you probably you probably know more about OJ's legacy than I do, but for me, I would say definitely rest in peace to him. Condolences go out to the family, but just a very complicated legacy of a complicated man.
Yeah, I'm happy you said the good things. Now here come the bad things about his life because, man, he started out being everyone loved him. Like everybody loved him. He was America's great great running back out of USC, out of San Francisco, and he knew how to manipulate people right away. And then he just became whom everybody loved. I mean, when he was with the Bills, they were nobodies after some success. And then he gets drafted there, and he has a few bad years, but in 1973, he got over that 2,000-yard plateau with that electric company offensive line. And he had some good years after that as well. He ended up, I think, being traded to San Francisco with the Niners, I believe, to finish his career there, and that was an odd sight to see him with the 49ers. And then, he went out and did commercials and did television, and you never really knew that he had, like, demons inside, where, first he cheated on his first wife, and then had a Nicole Brown Simpson as a on and off wife, and hated that Marcus Allen was just like him but younger, and Nicole was younger just like Marcus. That was kind of an odd thing. Then he would abuse Nicole all the time, it seemed like, after they divorced and got back together, divorced again, or separated again. And then he couldn't take that Nicole was with someone else, and he murdered those two people, Nicole and her brother, I want to say. And he got away with it just because of politics, and that's what's unfortunate about that horrible jury and that time in Los Angeles. It was just a bad time, and justice should have been served. I mean, it was with the civil trial. He lost all of his money, ended up losing some of his memorabilia. He tried to rob it back in Vegas, and he was all over recordings and cameras. And he got in trouble again, and he went to prison this time. Back in the like 2006, I want to say something like that. He got out some years ago, and he was really known on Twitter. He'd always talk about his fantasy football teams, um, but he was really ignorant when it came to getting off, from the murders that he, allegedly did. Um, People would always ask him like, "Hey, did you do it?" And his response would always be like, "Hey, if I did, it would be like this," literally telling people how he would do it when actually he did it. And it was just a shame that he never got, life in prison from that. I'm happy the Brown family actually got like civil suit and all the money and whatever that they got from OJ. It's just a wild and crazy life he had, from being that straight gentleman boy to a man that everybody loved to being absolutely hated. And then he just lived a complicated life after he got uh, exiled by people, by his people, I should say, even though he didn't love his people. It was the weirdest thing. I would suggest, if you ever have time out there, watch the 30 for 30 on OJ, and then either watch the FX show that was back then called OJ versus the People, and then you'll get a grasp of his life and what he went through and what he put himself into. Because we saw him do, television and movies and all that, and you assumed nothing was wrong with him, and everybody loved him. But man, he had some demons inside that really overshadowed his great football career. And I think they finally put OJ Simpson's number at USC. They finally have it on the historical part. I think they have his retired number up there. For years, I haven't seen that. I'll be interested, Isaiah, to see if USC football puts a number 32 circle. You know how they do for players that passed away or whatever? I'll be interested to see this season if they do that for and Buffalo as well. I'll be interested to see if they put a 32 on their jerseys this upcoming season. By the way, the last thing I saw, I want to mention, I saw 3 OJ Simpson jerseys at the Red Sox game last night. I could not believe that. That was so amazing how Boston people show out. And since it was kind of empty because it was wet, you saw them in the crowd. I'm like, what the hell is that? OJ Simpson jersey? And there was 3 of them. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it at all. But it just shows you how much of a figure he was in the 90s, especially. That trial was literally reality television before reality television. It was on everywhere. Everyone knew about it. I didn't know it because I was like 5 or 6 or whatever. I didn't care. I was worried about like the Lakers and the Raiders and all that. But I knew who he was. I didn't know what he was in trouble for all the way back then because I was just a wee little lad. But man, a complicated life, and it's over now. And I think the Brown family, I guess, can kind of, I don't know, they're kind of healed now after all these years, but they have the ultimate justice by him passing away.
Yeah, I'm glad that you were able to bring up more of the story because I'm definitely not familiar with it because by the time like I was born, I was born in '98. I think the trial happened in '94. So that was like
95, I think it was mostly 95, but the killings actually happened 94. But it was
yeah,
such a high profile case, they had to move it all the time.
yeah, and for I still remember the picture of him holding the glove and trying it on and
Yeah.
fit, and
See, that was the worst mistake that the defense team did, was tell him to put on that glove. And all OJ had to do was fake like it didn't fit. And he
yeah,
did a great job with that because he got away with it. And the lawyer at the time, who also is gone,
Kardashian.
that's one of OJ's best friends. I couldn't believe that he did it. But the lawyer, I'm trying to think of the black dude. I can't remember his name. But he had that famous quote saying, "If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit." And that
That's
just
right.
became a whole damn thing. So man, he's a part of Americana, whether we like it or not, for the history books.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Forever.
People will remember. People will remember this case forever and ever. I still remember watching that 30 for 30. Very interesting. I know I watched it on a cruise ship. I couldn't sleep a couple days afterwards because I don't know if I told anybody this, but I kept thinking about. I kept having horrifying nightmares of OJ holding a knife and chasing me around. So yeah, I mean, definitely check it out. I'm not saying you shouldn't check it out. It's a very interesting documentary. Um, you see Kim Kardashian's dad there as well. So rest in peace to him. But yeah, it's just a very interesting case and very, very complicated legacy for a complicated man.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Well, anyways, guys, it's been a great show. 2-hour program on this
Yikes.
impromptu episode of Sports Weekly. James, let's do another hour, shall we? Let's go 3 hours.
What are we gonna do? When are we gonna do that morning show? Let's get to
What?
that.
Let's try Whataburger again. Oh wait, no, we shouldn't because I got diarrhea last time over it.
I'm gonna have fried chicken and donuts right now. That's what I'm gonna do.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Just like we talked about on CTC today, and I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna fried chicken and donuts because I gotta take my medicine, and now I'm passing the hell out.
Well, it's been a great show, but let's get into. I don't know if we have it. Hopefully, we do. But let's get into. No, we don't have the video. Let's get into tonight's final thoughts. James, it's been a great show. Yeah, I'm trying to find the video. I don't know. I don't think we have it, sadly.
We don't need it.
Oh, right here. Let's get into. Nope, we don't have it. Never mind. I thought we had it, but we don't have that video. But James, it's been a great show. Really, really appreciate you for coming on with me. Very late, last minute edition of the program. Oh no, we do. Here's tonight's final thoughts. Final thoughts, James. What are your final thoughts for tonight's program?
I just have 3 words. OJ did it.
I agree. I agree. I think that now, the thing is, it's definitely not in the same stratosphere as the Shohei thing, but I think that eventually the truth will come out. Like the Shohei thing, like obviously he got acquitted of it, but facts still don't line up. So, and we're gonna get to that some other time. But yeah, the OJ thing. I think now that he's gone, I think we will finally get the facts. Like I think because you know how a lot of the times, like when someone dies or someone controversial passes, facts end up and people end up coming forward to admit the truth because they're just like they were scared, right? So I think we could see that now with OJ being gone. But do you have any announcements, James, for us?
Go on Halos in the Infield for coverage of the Angels baseball season. I dare you to. We just did an episode of James Squared with my main man, Malou. He's the other James involved. We recapped that homestand and previewed the road trip coming up for the ball club. And there's a podcast daily throughout the week that hopefully people will watch and enjoy and learn about this Angel team who probably won't be any good, but hopefully they'll be intriguing in some way. I really liked what I saw with Ron Washington on that game I went to. He was yelling at Doug Eddings after the game about the strike zone. We all know Doug Eddings likes
Was
to
that the
go
one
home
where
early.
Moniak slams the bat down?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I just watched that video where Moniak strikes out, he slams the bat down, and then Ron Washington is yelling at Doug Eddings. Yep.
Yeah, that was good. You finally saw a manager. I mean, the cool thing about it is that he did it after the game was over. Phil Nevin would go out there at a random time and take care of business, but Ron took the right time to do it as he was walking off. Um, but yeah, check me out at Halos in the Infield, C2C, Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. Yay! We're gonna have entertainment hour today, probably around 7 p.m. We're going to get into some interesting topics. We hope that other people can join along with us. Not you, Isaiah, but other people who know the entertainment world. And, check us out there, me and Crispy Bacon, among others, hopefully, but not you, like I mentioned. Come and we'll talk about certain stories in the entertainment world. It'll be fun stuff. Saturday! We will have the on deck with me and Crispy Bacon again, maybe Greg among others. We'll be talking some baseball topics, have team reports, and interesting stories that we will talk about in the baseball world. And then Sunday, I'll finally have a day off to do, thank God, nothing. Man, the last 2 weeks I've been freaking busy. All these podcasts, all these baseball games I've had to suffer and go through. Boots on the ground. Well, guess what? These boots are not made for walking this weekend. I'm staying home and I'm watching some Angels baseball. I'm going to check out that Rangers Astro series as well, just to see the difference between the Astros and Rangers right now. It just seems like there's a huge difference. And if we have any uh, pitches that go, up near people's heads. We'll see if we have some benches clearing, this weekend.
Definitely. For my final thoughts, really appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thank you to Seth for commenting and tuning in. Really appreciate you. And my guy Murtaza Salman, Laker fan, says, "Hey Isaiah, how are you doing, Murtaza? Really appreciate you for tuning in to the show and go Lakers, I guess. Hopefully you're able to sneak into the playoffs. I don't know, but yeah, we'll see what happens for that. But my final thoughts is, James, I gotta say this. I know we don't talk much about hockey on this program, but I gotta say this. Shame to the Seattle Kraken for missing the playoffs. How dare you miss the playoffs? What an absolute egregious thing this year by the Kraken. You are one of the most high up and coming teams in hockey, and you don't even make any move. You cheap it out. You don't do anything. You don't be aggressive at the deadline, and you miss the playoffs. And my guy Jordan Eberle misses the playoffs for one of the rare times in his career. Just a damn shame, James. I mean, I picked the Kraken to win it all this year, and for them not to
Come on.
for them not to even make the playoffs is a disgrace. Like I was saying, man, you got to go get Thomas Hurdle from the Sharks. You got to get like some of the other players. Go get Evgeny Malkin. Go get him. I mean, he's a very good player, but the Kraken, man, they just let me down this year. And
Man.
my adopted team. That's my hockey team.
Man, in the show.
But yeah, it's been a great show. Appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. Glad that we got some hockey into the mix later on in the program. But guys, it's been a great show. Stay tuned. We're going to have a draft show might come your way in a couple of weeks. We're going to do a mock draft show next week, so everybody get your mock drafts out. And then also we may do a play-in game watch party. We'll see Lakers-Warriors. That's going to be a huge game, but tune in for that. But, guys, it's been a great show. Thank you for all those that tuned in and all those that commented. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you again on another edition of Sports Weekly sometime next week. Have a great night, everybody. But I said, if you gave me Mahomes, if you gave me Lamar Jackson with his great legs and Mahomes' great arm, when you gave me Baker Mayfield, who would I want? I would want Baker Mayfield, and the reason why is because Baker Mayfield...
I really think that now this is the worst case scenario for the San Francisco 49ers, is that they're going to have to cut ties with Jimmy Garoppolo if I were them. What? Oh my God! Whoa, man!
In any event, Kyle Gibson is definitely my NL Cy Young Award winner. Rock on, Gibson.
And even no way! Oh my God!